Hello everyone, my name is Mauricio Lozano. I am from Tijuana and San Diego originally, so I'm from the border area of Mexico and the US. I have been living in Hong Kong for almost 11 years. I arrived August 9th, 2010. So yeah, it's been almost 11, it's been more than a decade. So I originally came to Hong Kong after graduating from my bachelor's in finance and business administration in the US. I was looking around for jobs in the US. It was the height of the financial crisis. So summer 2010, there wasn't really much new jobs for beginners in finance in the US, especially not in San Diego. I applied for different job opportunities around the US, around the world, and I actually ended up getting a scholarship for a master's program here in Hong Kong. I took it, I thought it was a 1 year, fully paid master's, why not? I should take it. And then 1 year later, I would go back to the US or to Mexico, to see what my luck would be in terms of career. So my experience in Hong Kong, based off of originally I came from a master's program in Hong Kong. I obviously originally had planned to go back to the US or to Mexico. I ended up actually about within 3 weeks or so, basically falling in love with the city. And I decided to not really ever go back, actually. I ended up loving the safety, the environment of both city and outdoor and beaches and hiking and all of the great things that you get with a big city, such as restaurants, nightlife, culture, activities, great travel destinations around the area. All of those different things basically made me fall in love with what was Hong Kong, what is Hong Kong, right? My overall experience with the city has also been, it's a great place to network and meet new people, friends, and people from all walks of life and industries and from different countries, right? So it's really the most international city in Asia, if not definitely one of the networking capitals of the world. So I would say even that, yeah, maybe New York or London could be considered sometimes more international than Hong Kong, but I don't think it's as easy to meet people in those cities from so many different walks of life as it is in Hong Kong, because the expat community in Hong Kong is so strong and it's so dense, and basically most of the expats just live in a few neighborhoods and then they go to a lot of similar places, and then you end up really mixing with people I never would ever imagine that I would talk to. So my studies here in Hong Kong, it was a bit different. It took some time to get used to it compared to what I experienced in the US or Mexico. Back home, it's always much more open-minded, more independent. People ask a lot of questions, but studying in Hong Kong, it was a bit of a culture shock. It took at least a semester to really get used to it, to actually get acclimated and really understand how to study in Hong Kong and in Asia. So in Hong Kong, the local professors or the Chinese professors, they're more focused on you learning the actual material directly. Dare I say, memorize the material. But as opposed to Western style, where you learn more of the concept and then you explain it in your own words. So that took a bit to get used to it, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily worse or better, any of them. It's just a very different style. But if you can get used to that, then you can actually succeed here studying in Hong Kong. Besides the actual studying material, the student life was actually very free. It was just extremely safe. Like you could really just, again, make friends with anybody, do whatever you want. If you want to be in the library the whole day, people would stay there 24 hours. I even left a wallet there one time and nobody stole it. You could go out with your friends at night on a Tuesday night and you'd actually find a bar that's open and you can do that. If you want to go to the beach, I mean, again, there's so many different things and for so many different styles, right? If you want to just stay indoors, you can stay indoors. If you want to go out, you can go out. But yeah, the studying life here was honestly very, very carefree. And honestly, as a student, it was actually remarkably affordable. Like I lived with 5,000 Hong Kong dollars a month at that time. I'm sure now maybe people would need maybe a little bit more with inflation, I don't know, 6 or 7,000, but it doesn't have to be such an expensive city as a student. Like you can actually get cheap food at the school, and you can actually get a decent dorm room or roommates, and then you can actually, it doesn't have to be the most expensive city in the world for a student. Right? For the master's students, or actually any student that graduates in Hong Kong as an international non-local graduate, they get, once they graduate, they get what is called an international arrangement for non-local graduates visa, so IANG visa. That visa allows you to basically go and work wherever you want, actually, in Hong Kong, as long as that company hires you. They don't need to sponsor you for a visa. They don't need to do as much paperwork when they have to hire somebody from overseas directly. So that is usually a huge advantage for most companies who don't want to have the capital or the disclosure of information that is necessary to do just a general employment visa, which usually only the biggest companies can really access. But with this kind of visa, then yeah, you can work obviously in a big company, but you can also work in a medium or a smaller company, or even open your own business, which I've seen people do to start as an entrepreneur. With MexCham, my role originally, I joined in 2012. I joined as treasurer at the time. I got involved because the passion to actually help out with the Mexican community, to actually be able to make a difference, because I am actually both a US and a Mexican citizen, but honestly the American Chamber doesn't really need any more volunteers. They're on a very different scale. So I decided that I would actually help out the Mexican community much more with my own efforts, which they did need the help. And yeah, and I got involved, and I'm so glad I actually got involved because I met so many new friends, made so many contacts. If I had joined the American Chamber, I would have been nobody, honestly. I don't think I would have become the president of the American Chamber at all, and I wouldn't have had the same level of networking access with the Americans. No damage to them, obviously they're just a much bigger organization. But with the Mexican Chamber, actually, we basically are punching way above our belt class, because we do have access to all the same facilities and benefits as all the other chambers, but obviously our size is not the same, right? So it's not so crowded. Right? But yeah, working with the chamber, I learned a lot, honestly. Learned a lot about different industries, different businesses, made a ton of contacts, and overall a very positive experience. The community at large can benefit from the services and benefits of MexCham, depending on what they're looking for, right? But the main service, I would say, the main benefit is really the networking, the contacts, whether it be people looking for a business partner, or people looking to just on advice on how to establish a company, or people looking for advice on what do they need to even do their business, or they actually just want to, as a young professional or as a student, they want to make more friends or connect with other people, then, I mean, that is the biggest attraction. For people looking to have a government input, so for all the missions or people who want to have access to different government officials or reports or meetings from like the IBC, that is a massive benefit. If they want to lobby or maybe present some sort of concept or even potential claim or almost a complaint, a business complaint, the chamber can actually lobby that on behalf of the members to the IBC, to the government. Other benefits would be simply, again, the exposure of getting your name out there. As any new person coming into Hong Kong, I would highly recommend to join the chamber, to join the activities, to really get connected with what is the Mexican community in Hong Kong. Because even if not every member or every person goes to one of the events, if you meet one of the core people in the chamber or in the community, then they will gladly connect you with all the other members or contacts. Because in the end, it's such a friendly chamber. this really, you come in and basically you're welcome, right? You're here to join the community. And then it's not, again, not just the Mexican community, but it's the Latin American community, the Chileans, the Argentinians, the Costa Ricans, the Brazilians, the Colombians, I mean, you name it, you know. So it's much more than just Mexico. Yes, it's called the Mexican Chamber of Commerce, but honestly, it encompasses all of Latin America, and I mean, honestly, a lot of other countries that might not even have a chamber, from Middle East or Southeast Asia. You never know, really. But that is the biggest attraction, just simply being able to connect and maybe find the kind of contact or person that you're looking for. So going off a little bit of the first question of my job search, back when I graduated. So when I graduated in Hong Kong, originally, yes, I applied for a few different jobs. I ended up going with where I'm still currently working right now, which at the time was ING. It's the Dutch insurance company. In 2014, 2015, around there, it became FWD. I'm currently a certified financial planner. I originally started just as a management associate, and then over the years I have built up my portfolio of services and licenses. But yes, I am a CFP and a wealth management advisor, and a licensed SFC representative, and also a branch manager. So basically, if you really want to summarize it without getting bored, I am basically a private bank now, without any lending capabilities, really. But yes, what I do is really see clients face to face, and then see what kind of services they need from me. But that, be it both corporate clients or individual clients, I could sort out most of their financial services needs. So if they need to go to HSBC, they really don't actually need to go to HSBC, except for maybe a bank account. But even that, I can probably open for you as well. So yeah, I am a face-to-face certified financial planner, financial advisor, and I'm seeing both corporate and individual clients from all over the world and all walks of life. So my advice for people in Hong Kong regarding insurance, it depends on, again, what kind of insurance. For individuals such as expats coming to Hong Kong, in terms of medical insurance, biggest advice, honestly, see what kind of plan you have, what kind of benefits are covered and what benefits are not covered. Because in the end, people are not necessarily used to it compared to their home country as to how the insurance works, right? So if people come from a European country, maybe they're thinking that the social welfare is amazing or whatever, the government takes care of it, and then they come here and then they realize that, well, that's not actually really the case, right? Or the same with a lot of people that come with an employment insurance, their employment contract comes with insurance, they think that they are covered already. Actually, most companies, if it's not a big European corporate or a big bank, most people's benefits from work are usually minimal. It's just usually just nothing. Something's just trash, really. So I would highly recommend checking that out. Another thing, as an expat, also check out their MPF, their pension. Some people, I've seen so many times where expats actually, the employer forgets to pay them their MPF, their pension payments, because they think that they just don't even have to pay it. Right? So those are the two biggest ones as individual professionals working in Hong Kong. For corporates, that I would also highly recommend, if you come and set up a company in Hong Kong and then you actually hire staff, again, there's two mandatory insurance that you need to get. One is the MPF, which is the pension in Hong Kong, and two is the employees' compensation insurance, which is not a medical insurance. It's just a disability insurance in case the employee gets injured or even passes away while they're working, right? And then yes, you can actually buy the medical insurance for quite cheap as well. In terms of savings or investments, I would definitely take advantage of the tax savings of all the different savings and investment plans here in Hong Kong, because they're all tax-free. And even if you move away to anywhere else in the world, you're not going to be taxed on those unless you're an American or unless you're Japanese. So there's different little things where it changes for that. But for the average expat, your money would be tax-free here and safe here in Hong Kong until you decide what to do with that money in the future, if you even want to move it anywhere else. In terms of investments, again, there's a massive amount of variety here that you can choose from that is not usually really available in other parts of the world, maybe in the US, but then in the US you're going to be taxed. Or in Europe, again, it might be available, but you're going to be heavily taxed. So definitely take advantage of the services that are here, before you leave. And okay, one other advice. Some people come a couple of years, they open a bank account, and then they decide to close the bank account. Do not close your bank account in Hong Kong. Do not close it. It's extremely difficult to open one if you're not a resident, and it's actually worth the whole world, because that's where you can actually really store your savings or your investments in there and be protected from other, basically third parties or from other tax regulations. Right? Again, unless you're an American or a Japanese person. I think Hong Kong is a place to be as a Mexican for either studying, for working, for having a life experience, mainly for the security. I think that is the biggest draw for me, the security, but then mixed with the culture, actually. That you get a bit of a mix of old and new, which is very similar to Mexico. Like, that's what actually really reminded me of Mexico. That you can have an amazing skyscraper, a very nice mall, and then next to it, it's gonna be an old building with some lady's underwear hanging out of the window. And then it's a city of contrast that you usually see it in Latin America, right? Where people are not too concerned so much about the looks on some things. You can rich and poor with old and new and bad and good can all mix in one place, and it all works out somehow. It's all very organic, and which is rare to say from, again, places like London or New York, these other big international cities. You don't get such big contrast, and again, you don't get the safety from there. The IBC is the International Business Committee. It's a organism within the Hong Kong government, or I wouldn't say within it, but basically parallel to the Hong Kong government, where the international business chambers can meet and actually have a full boardroom meeting to discuss the most pressing business issues within the community. It meets basically every quarter to every half year. The schedule is always set up. But that's where really you can get the most issues discussed between all the different chambers, and then decide what is most important to the international business committee and to the community, and then present that to the highest ranking Hong Kong government officials, including the chief executive, the secretary for administration, secretary for the economy, and whatever high-ranking officials needed to address the different issues, right? So that they actually know from you what it is you need, right? So as opposed to just sending in an email to, hey, I want to complain, or I want to post something, or a newspaper article. Like, this is a very direct, face-to-face meeting where you can actually have the chamber talk on your behalf to, the highest-ranking person, right? So that they can actually make notes and hopefully try to find a solution.